Hello, I'm John McFarlane, Head of Creator Engagement here, and welcome to the first Sea of Thieves podcast of 2023. And I have got a star-studded lineup for you here today, who are all going to introduce themselves so that I don't have to. And they're also going to tell you what their favourite day of the week is and why. And starting with yourself.
Oh, that's a good one, isn't it? I'm Joni, Executive Producer on Sea of Thieves, and my favourite day of the week is Tuesday. Because it's the first day that I come into the studio and see all of you lovely folks, you see. But yeah, there you go. I know I'm like vomiting inside as well. That shows I can deliver anything with sincerity.
I'm Mike Chapman. I'm Creative Director on Sea of Thieves, and I'm going to say Monday because no one's going to say Monday. It's a little bit unexpected, so I'll say Monday. That's how excited I am.
I'm Christina. I'm the head of community and communications. And my favourite day of the week is Saturday because I'm not bizarre and would pick a weekday. I like spare free time with a spare free day coming the day after. That's my vibe, yeah.
Nice. My name's Andrew Preston. I'm a lead designer. And yeah, my favourite day is Saturday as well, for the same reasons, really.
Right, you, John. What's your favourite day of the week?
Favourite day of the week's Friday. Because I think, like, although you still got, like, somewhat, you're kind of finishing that up and you get the relief of going, like, oh, so that's kind of done. Now you put that behind, and then you get to do something on the Friday night and you feel like you've got a whole weekend ahead of you. So it's kind of like yours, but I want the extended extra day. But yeah, I enjoy Fridays.
Thrilling, isn't it? I wonder what our engagement's looking like on the podcast stats. It's like, after that scintillating opening, like they tuned in for.
Yeah.
First community poll of 23.
Yeah.
What new content do you want to see? No, we're not having that. What's your favourite day of the week? That was nice, thank you.
Yeah, so it's what we in the industry call an icebreaker. Yeah.
Right.
Lovely. Ice broken.
Yeah, do you feel like you get to get the
absolutely.
broken?
I feel very relaxed and
You feel relaxed.
Oh, yeah.
Sub-Zero.
Easy.
Still Sub-Zero. Thaw me out, please.
So as well, just as a reminder, as always, letting you know that if you want to listen to this, it's available in any reputable podcast app. And if you want to go watch us and see these lovely faces that are sat around me, then go and watch over on our YouTube channel /Sea of Thieves. And Christina will be taking questions. Yeah, Christina will be taking questions.
Personally.
And well, yeah. So, like, DM her. On Twitter.
Yeah, Instagram.
Yeah,
find me on Instagram.
And,
Send me everything.
you can find her on Tumblr. MySpace. Yeah.
Ask FM. I think that's perfect for this platform. Retro, Bebo, on all of them.
So yeah, if you want to ask a question, use the hashtag #SOTPodcast because Christine will be asking some of your questions from last time.
Yes, I will. Yeah. There's a few.
There's a few. And she knows exactly what they are. She's going to be asking them.
I've memorised them. And my laptop definitely didn't run out of battery 5 minutes ago. So it's going to be really good.
But we'll continue not jumping into the Sea of Thieves stuff yet, because we've had a little break, right? It's been a little while.
Can we just get to Sea of Thieves? No, please.
Everyone listening's like, oh my God,
And
skip.
I want to find out how people are. Like,
Was okay.
No, we'll get plenty of time for Sea of Thieves. This is going to be like an hour long. How are people, just in general?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Very
Well rested?
well rested, refreshed, ready to go, moderately tanned. Yeah, I'm all good.
Yourself, Mike? How you been? How was your break, your festive break?
It was wonderful, yeah. So managed to go away for Christmas. It was first time, which was amazing. So went with the family to the Maldives.
Oh,
Which was very shores of plenty, very Sea of Thieves. So totally detached and enjoyed Christmas with the family, but did reread both Sea of Thieves novels and Treasure Island. So I felt it was like reading on location. It was very relaxing, and they've come back, obviously excited for the year ahead. But no, appreciated a lovely break over Christmas. It was good.
Yourselves?
Also went to the Maldives.
Did you?
No, I went to Leeds to see family. So sincere. Also, I can deliver with sincerity. No, it was lovely. It was really good. And then more recently, obviously, we released GoldenEye, which has been absolutely amazing because I've managed to work on that a little bit as well. So I feel very good about the start of the year from like a rare perspective. Not just Sea of Thieves, like rare across the board. So it's good times.
none of my stuff's as impressive as any of this. Releasing GoldenEye, like going on holiday, no, just a chilled out break with Shelley and the close family, just unwinding after the busy year that we had last year and getting ready for the year ahead. But yeah, it was nice.
And that's a good way to segue into the busy year you had at the end of last year. We're talking about season 8.
What do you mean me personally? Like, or
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your thought?
So I actually went away the day before it launched, I think, to Japan. So it's a bit of a strange time for me because I was on the other side of the world, kind of anxiously hoping that it all launched, successfully, and kind of checking in and watching people on Twitch play it for the first time whilst, in a completely different time zone. But very exciting period. Feel like it went down well, and I was kind of happy with the reception that it got, and what it's added to the game for sure. Yeah,
Amazing release, obviously. Andy and the team working on that together, something we talked about for a long time, and like I think towards the end of development with Insiders, Andy and the team working close with Insiders, I think it's one of those releases that it had the lore, it had the new environments, it had the cool new rewards, it had the great core gameplay, and it felt like it had a little bit of everything. And honestly, that's quite hard to do normally. Normally our releases focus on very specific things like captaincy, bringing in a new way to play, but it's largely done through UI and systems and new rewards. But Season 8 felt like it had a little bit of everything. But I think the thing I'd give credit to Andy and the team for is how quickly we've been able to respond. I think we were really happy with how Season 8 landed, and obviously the stories are fantastic and the reception was fantastic. But as with any feature that's that complex, right, there's little balancing changes we want to make. We do see exploits, bugs that arise out in the wild that you don't see in Insiders. I think the team's done a fantastic job of just responding really quickly. And I think releases, we look at looking back now we're in 2023, looking back to last year, to us, Captaincy and Sea of Bones Season 8 were huge in terms of what they added to the game, but we see them, I guess, less like the way we've added features in the past, where we add them, they become part of the sandbox, part of the world, and then we move on. I think we knew going into Season 7 and Season 8 that these were new platforms that we're going to build on in the future. So from the team's perspective, I think last year was just huge, right? Having Season 7 and then Season 8 following after it, 2 big new updates to the Sea of Thieves. But players will definitely see in this year and beyond. Obviously, we'll keep doing new things, but you will see us build upon those feature sets, which is really exciting. So just proud of all the work the team is doing to keep making the most of what we've added.
Yeah, I think actually with Season 8, like you touched on it briefly at the start of that around the working with Insiders, but also with partners and stuff. And it was something that I kind of witnessed from afar, but how closely you worked. But even from so early on, sharing, like, here's what we're going to be doing, taking feedback at that stage, at the written stage, and tweaking and changing plans. And then all the way through, right? It was such a close collaboration.
Absolutely.
With Insiders.
Like, the partners were, like, instrumental to the success of that season. Like, and we got in there so early, considering the roadmap of Season 8, and usually we kind of work away as a team and then we get it to Insiders and we have kind of a little bit of time to react, but not much. Whereas with Season 8, because it was so combat focused and our partners kind of play the game, they know the kind of meta of Sea of Thieves, what the kind of combat experience is like. It felt like we needed to be talking to them very, very early in the development to make the most of it. And thank God we did that meeting, because there were so many kind of changes to the design of Season 8 that came off the back of that initial meeting that we had with them. Points around toxicity and people coming back for more after a fight has kind of concluded, and that kind of flow that we have where players sink and then get moved to a different environment away from the people that they've just fought. All of that kind of came from the partners, and they were some of the biggest changes that made it feel like healthy competition, where you kind of finish a game and say good game and move on and kind of have those little moments with players. But I'm kind of really thankful to the team as well, specifically that built Season 8, like the build rats, because they were very receptive to the changes that came along the way from the partners, from the Insiders. Like, was adamant to not have battle bounds in season 8, and then we got it into insiders, and it was like, it's just not going to work unless we do this. And we listened to that feedback and we made the changes that we needed to make. But the build reps were the team that were kind of receptive enough to kind of make those changes late in the day, push forward to try and make the best experience for the players. So that was really, really thankful for that as well.
It's not just before season 8 that you were taking the feedback on, because obviously we've introduced a couple of significant changes to season 8 since. I wonder if it's worth recapping what we've changed, because I think it's really like.
I got the patch notes.
That's it though. Yeah.
Well, like, I think whenever you got something competitive, there's a lot of emotion in the kind of feedback, because it's just, it's kill or be killed, and if you lose, it feels, it was tense, and I want to either win or I want to lose fairly, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, when the feedback came flooding in after the launch of season 8, we were kind of on it as a team to kind of go, what are the biggest hitting problems here? Blunderbombs come to mind as a big kind of issue at the launch of season 8 in terms of, like, the frequency in the world. How much they kind of changed the battles by kind of popcorning players off of the ships and stuff like that. And whilst I was away in Japan, the team were making a bunch of changes to all of that stuff. And then that all got kind of packaged up, ready to go for December. And then, again, we got like a nice positive bump there again in December for, like, the community feeling we're being receptive to the feedback. And then after a couple of weeks, it kind of changes into, like, the next biggest problems down the list, which turned out to be around the queue times, which... something, like, speaking openly, I was anxious about that throughout. I know I was as well, timing other games and how long it takes them to get into matches and stuff like that. But we were suspecting we might need that. I know I spoke to you, Mike, before I actually flew to Japan to say, suspect this might happen. I think we can fix it in this way. Like, what do you think? And then we were like, yeah, let's do it. So work began on same faction battles and cross-stamp migration before launch of season 8 to try and get it ready. And I kind of was seeing that kind of growing sentiment in the community around the queue times, and I felt like we need to kind of reach out to them and say, hey, we know what you're feeling, and, like, don't worry, we're working on it, just to try and hopefully set their minds at ease. And then follow it up in the new year, and thankfully we've been able to do that. We said early January, and we've done it, like, in the first kind of release of January. So happy that we could do that. And what's really cool about that as well is, like, you can measure that without community sentiment, if you know what I mean. You can just look at data that the game reports and go, right, this is how long on average players were getting into a fight, and then you see this massive reduction in the time that it takes for players to get into fights, and it's hugely gratifying to kind of see that number go down, because you know what impact that's going to have on players.
And so what are some of the things, like, alongside that you're like continuing to see, or that we continue to look at? Like, because I guess it's almost like the job is never done, and that stuff that you were saying, that we're going to continually look at it.
Yeah. So I think it's fair to acknowledge the reports of cheating that we've seen in the community, and that definitely has increased more recently as well. It was something, again, going into an update like this, we were aware that there would be the potential for this, and it might encourage this kind of behaviour, because you're bringing in ways to be competitive, and that sadly brings out the worst in some folks. Thankfully, a small minority, but it can still affect a lot of people, right? So the challenge, as an ongoing game, as an ongoing service, and any live game will have this, right, is that it's kind of a little bit of a war of attrition sort of thing, which is, as you're always constantly kind of trying to fix and improve things, and sadly bad actors are trying to do the opposite, right? And they're trying to find loopholes, trying to find exploits. And as your game grows and evolves, the potential as you add new things is that people can find new ways kind of in and stuff. And I can't talk too much about the detail of it, because obviously any information we share is information that people can use. So I can't talk any specifics. But I want to reassure people that we are actively listening. We're actively looking at this. Like, we are making changes, making improvements. And also, again, to reiterate that zero tolerance approach from us to, any reports that we receive, we investigate, we look at, and as soon as we have evidence that someone is kind of using something, or using, like, an external program or whatever, then, like I said, zero tolerance. Those people will be banned. They will be removed from the service. And we appreciate the frustration and how this can impact people. And obviously, it's for the team internally here, when we see it, we get frustrated, we get annoyed, but we also know for the people that are affected by this live, you know, we're on social, we see videos, we see kind of the impact it can have and how kind of some people can behave. Again, like I say, it's a minority, but the impact that they can have is pretty bad, pretty severe to people. And so, yeah, we are actively working on this, actively looking at closing kind of any of the kind of exploits that we're seeing. But yeah, we're aware and active and working on it as quickly as we can.
Yeah. And trying to do it in a very considered way. I think, like you say there, we're all kind of, we all try to be in touch with the community on social media. So we kind of see the discussions, are Rare listening, are Rare aware of this? Do they care about this? And it's like, of course we do. It's the game we poured years into, and the game that we love right to this day. So I think that bit is frustrating, but we need to be careful around, we need to build up a picture, and we can't share specifics for the reason that Joe says, but we see it, like we see a lot of things. They are very much in our attention, and we are working forward on that stuff.
And also, as we look forward and having seen the things that we are working on alongside, like, into the future kind of thing, we're continuing to look at, even if it's just like smaller, like, quality of life stuff that's coming in alongside some of the updates in the future, where that stuff is still things that we want to balance against things like Season 8 and captaincy and stuff, right? Like, for the future.
It often has felt, I think, in recent years that there's two ways to approach. I'm talking about us now. How we approach developing experiences for Sea of Thieves, and it is a tricky balance between the stuff that's really exciting, which is adding completely new things like Season 8, like captaincy, like the stuff we've got planned, the stuff we've done in the past, to the sandbox that people get excited for. And if they've gone away from Sea of Thieves, it's a reason to come back, or it's a reason to just focus on that with their friends. That stuff's always really exciting. But it's a balance between doing things like that, but then also improving the sandbox that already exists. Like, there's so much in Sea of Thieves now you can't see in any one session. You know, the things that we've added, the delicate balance of the economy and how that changes over time, the inflation that you see in the economy, because we're adding these new sources and these new sinks to the economy. I think, like, that in itself is a huge, it would just consume all of your focus if you were just, like, tuning up and tweaking the game as it is today. So we've strived for quite a long time to strike that balance between adding that new content but also making the most of what we've already got. Every time you add a new ingredient into the sandbox, you want to kind of rebalance everything, and we don't always have the time to do that. And we hear our community say that, like, when are Rare going to go and improve this feature or improve this feature? And I think to kind of share, which I think is good, is we are working with a new co-dev partner to ensure that we can give the attention that we want to give to those two areas. We always want to keep adding new exciting features that change the Sea of Thieves sandbox, but also keep on top of any emerging issues in the whole other landscape of the game and making use of features we've already got. So best way to think about it is, going forward in 2023, you'll see an increased focus from us on, yes, continue to add new things, but also making the most of the game that we've got, whether that's getting on top of key bugs, that's fixing hot topics, that's quality of life improvements. You'll see an increasing focus on that side of the game as well, which is great. That's what we want to do.
I want to speak very vaguely now because this is the podcast, but certainly with an awareness of what's coming up at some point in an unspecified amount of time. There is vague enough. Yeah, thank you. No, that's good. That's what we want.
Everyone's throwing things at their monitors right now.
Stop it. There's definitely some key things coming that community are just going to be like, this is phenomenal, this is amazing, this is brilliant. And it's not necessarily stuff that we get asked for constantly, but there's always a bubbling of, wouldn't it be nice if, or this doesn't feel quite right. And there's definitely some things coming up that are going to change how people feel about certain aspects. So I'm really excited. I've loved previous seasons where we've done those quality of life updates. I think season 2, season 5 were really amazing updates for the sandbox. And I think it's fair to say there's going to be some similar stuff at some point.
I think like in the past, like Mike said, it's been difficult to kind of get those types of changes in because we've been trying to push the sandbox and make it so much bigger and better and have all these kind of new systemic changes to the game. But we started experimenting with like this kind of Friday afternoon, engineers can kind of do what they want sort of process where we started seeing a lot of like interesting, cool features kind of come out of that were either quality of life changes or just little bits of magic that you want in Sea of Thieves that typically would be hard to initially justify on a roadmap, if you know what I mean. And I think Season 5 was kind of a product of a collection of those things, and then trying to build a bigger release around that sort of mantra of like changes. But I think now that we have the new co-dev partner, it gives us more freedom and flexibility to kind of do more of that stuff in the future and be more targeted with it as well. Like the Jetson supply barrel stuff that we dropped in December, just after we launched Season 8, you know, where if you take a ship down, all of their internal resource barrels float to the surface. That was actually the Lost Ancients or first release for Sea of Thieves. So, and that was like adding tremendous value for PvP battles because all those changes are flooding back to me now from December. Yeah, because like when we launched, it was hard to kind of replay battles because you'd spawn on an island instead of back at the outpost. So you couldn't restart your ship quickly and get back out. So we made it so that when you lost, you went back on the outpost. We made it so that ships had more stock on by default. We cheapened some of the stuff as well. But then crucially, we added that jettison supply barrels thing as well, so that once you win a fight, you can just steal their resources and dive straight again immediately. So those types of changes are really powerful for players that have played the game for a long time. It just makes the session flow and feel so much more satisfying to play. They're almost like issues you didn't even know were there.
Yeah.
But once you fix them and plug that hole, suddenly the whole game just feels like, oh man, how do we live without this? Like
that particular jettisoning update wasn't just benefiting the Season 8 content.
Yeah,
it benefits everybody.
The whole sandbox, right?
Because often I've loaded in at an outpost and there's like some supply barrels. I'm like, result.
Yeah,
free
exactly.
stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't got to go raiding, and the way that it just enables you to get straight into a session. Even like I can't remember when we did it, but we did the take all for storage crates. Like
that was Season 5.
Life changing. And you just don't realize, like you say, you don't realize you need it until it's
but you
there.
can't go back without it now.
No,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? Like if you remove that, you'd be like, what? How did we exist with this before? Like,
so I think thinking of releases where on their own they're little things, but they fundamentally change every experience from then on in Sea of Thieves. Having a suite of those becomes really, really powerful, and it changes the game quite fundamentally. So I think for the first season release of 23 season, well, yeah, we're getting there. I think what we can share about like Season 9, which is obviously our first seasonal release of 23, is that when we're going through the plans for Season 9 and we're going through the slides of let's just recap what's in Season 9, it's just, and there's this, and there's just this exhaustive list of quality of life improvements, little niggly things that we've fixed alongside some more headliner things that get you to play differently in the sandbox. But Season 9 is going to be really exciting. That's where players will really feel that focus on improving the little areas of Sea of Thieves alongside doing a little bit bigger stuff as well.
So our core community, people that play a lot, will see a lot of that kind of improvements and the things that have been frustrating them, or kind of that will just like really improve the kind of regular flow.
It's going to be good. It's going to be great.
I think the other thing as well is when you think about some of the bigger features that we add, we talk about like Season 7 and Season 8 has been these platforms that we build upon and we go and do this stuff. But then we've added like multitudes of other features when I think about just like the Megalodon, for example, and you add that in. And then later down the line, we have the markers, and those get added for the ship battles, but then you were like, oh no, like we could put those on the Megalodon and somehow that becomes easier to spot the stuff that's coming from that. So it's about, like, sometimes it's good to be able to go back and revisit those features and go like, what have we added in the past? Like what have we added since we put that in that would help make this so much better, or rebalance this, or do stuff like that. That is just a really good thing to just go and reevaluate some of the things.
I mean, players that have been with us since when we launched will remember that first year, and that first year was very much like that. It was adding completely the new creature in the Megalodon, adding new AI crews, new mechanics, but then Shrouded Spoils kind of went back and revisited what we'd done before to expand their functionality. So you think about all the things we've added since then, all of those years of new little systems, new mechanics, there's new experiences waiting to be unlocked by giving those things the time of day, alongside doing completely new things to the sandbox.
Yeah.
So
So it's more of a balanced approach to that over the year ahead, I think, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it is. It is, and I think it's fair. Like some members of our community have kind of been asking for that as well. As
Yeah,
in,
definitely.
Going back to, it feels like there's so much potential here, Ray. When are you going to go back and give this more time of day? And I think we want to kind of be more committed to doing that in the future.
Yeah.
Because as well, there's always like when like you when I see those original pitch decks for whatever season or whatever thing we're putting in, there's always extra that you have to cut off because you're like, there's only ever a certain amount of time that you want to put in. So sometimes being able to go back and go, like, oh, we could do that thing that we always wanted to add to that, or we always wanted to change, but now we can actually go and do it, and we have the capability.
Definitely, and I think we as a team are a little bit more disciplined now with what we add and why, because I think you recognise that if we land this core feature like captaincy or season 8, there's huge expansion opportunities in the future that might not seem immediately apparent, but you need that core functionality to land. The reality is, well, you'd want to do both at the same time. It's just not realistic. So we can land this now, but then maybe next year we can expand it in this really exciting way.
But if we look in the near future as well, so obviously we're heading towards our anniversary.
Fifth anniversary.
We're a toddler.
Yeah, we are a toddler.
No,
indeed.
5 years old is much older than a toddler.
Is
Like,
it?
that's like school, isn't it? Like
Is it?
5.
It's all-
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so gay. Like I don't realise any of this stuff.
I'm so gay. I don't understand children.
No, does anyone?
It's like full on walking, talking alphabet sort of scenario.
Crack open another fancy chat.
Yeah, but returning to reality, like the 5th anniversary is an amazing moment again, right? Like first of all, the fact that we've got to our 5th anniversary as a live service and stuff, right? And is amazing milestone. It'd be an amazing moment for our players, for the team, but. You know, we've got some fun stuff planned for that, right? Obviously, the next season launches close to it. But yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff in game, out of game that we really want to celebrate it, right? We've got some really cool stuff planned that we're doing as a team, as a studio, I think, for this, and I think it's going to be just a really cool moment in time, like for us, and I'm sure it'll be a little emotional as well. I think it will be, right, when we hit that, right?
I think getting to the 1st anniversary was incredible, but I think there's something special about the 5th anniversary. It feels far more significant. And people that have spoke to us at shows have probably heard me say this many times, but I think the plans we have for the future, how excited we are, not just to do the things that are more obvious to expand Sea of Thieves, but new ways to play, new ways to expand the game, new ways to fulfill that pirate fantasy that we've always wanted. I think we continue to be ambitious as ever. And I think that renewed focus on doing that, what we've always wanted to do, and looking after the features we've already added to the game, fixing exploits, staying on top of hot topics, quality of life improvements, like doing both, I think just shows how, over those 5 years, we've just grown. We've grown even more. And our ambitions have got even bigger. So
It's crazy, like thinking back to like how much we were kind of like, I guess, kind of just going out and hoping and wishing that what we were doing was like right and that people would kind of like go along with it, and obviously it worked out and it has been amazing. But now you kind of feel like it's insane how much we've learned like as you go along that like process. You're kind of like, oh god, like how not naive we were back then, but like how
Well, it was our first service game as
Yeah.
a studio, right? And like we didn't know what we were doing really.
Yeah.
Like when we went into it, to like be completely honest.
No, like
that's a good thing, though. I actually think that we were all naive, but that healthy naivety, I think, has led to us creating something unique. It really is. I think we could have second guessed a lot of the things that have become magical in Sea of Thieves if we'd applied too much experience to it.
I think we've learned very quickly though as well, like, and we've kind of adapted and built year after year and year after year.
But honestly, it's like even not just in the game, right? It's in the studio, right? Like your world didn't exist. Your world didn't exist. Like at the start of this, before we created this, your like team didn't exist, and the capability to ship the game regularly, and all of those kind of things that we've built up as a studio
It's like
to
an
kind of.
inverse Oprah, that was.
You did it.
Inverse
But you're right. But it's
Yeah.
like honestly, I've been reflecting back a bit as some of the stuff we're doing for 5th anniversary has kind of made me do, and actually just realizing all of that we've built and those kind of strengths and stuff as a studio. Not not every team has that, and any team going in creating a service for the time has to go on that journey, right, and learn all of that.
I think to that point, I love the stories where it's like we released and we sort of ripped up the roadmap and went, no, okay, we're going to do something else. And it feels like actually we're in a place where we're still listening to people's wants, desires, but we're no longer on that back foot. Like you say, the what we've got planned is thoughtful, it's intentional, and it's really exciting. It's not just let's just hope. We definitely feel like we've certainly found our feet after over 5 years, like a child. But it's really exciting. Even the anniversary celebrations itself, that's one of the things I've been working on quite a lot. And there's a nice look back and kind of touch points with kind of amazing content that we fetched to the game, but then also still doing something new. Still seeing what we can push, what we can tweak, what we can do to give players a real celebratory experience. And I'm very excited to get the plans for anniversary out there. I think March is going to be a standout month for Sea of Thieves.
So we've talked about anniversary, and then we're just going to keep moving forward. Is there what's happening after that?
So yes, exciting anniversary ahead. I think beyond anniversary that we've got a second mystery planned. That takes a lot of the learnings from the first mystery. Looking back on that, lots of things to be proud of. I think if you stayed engaged with a mystery and you're able to follow all the threads, I think a lot of our players had it felt quite fulfilling and meaningful to finish it. But I think we definitely didn't we saw a lot of people drop off. It's quite hard to keep tabs on things. So a much more focused mystery that does things a little bit differently. Really excited for it. That's coming post-anniversary, a little bit later.
Yeah. It kind of has its own window, right?
Has its own, so it's got time to shine. And for our players, it can become the focus.
Yeah.
So rather than, filling a gap where there might have been a gap before, with keeping people focused with a mystery, so you get to follow all the threads.
Yeah, because it was like dipping in and out amongst everything else. Yeah. It was like Lost Sands was around that time, wasn't it? I think.
Yes.
And so,
the community choice, which was obviously we were trying to focus people on that and get passionate about that. While
and then we're like, now remember this, and you're like, what was that?
Yeah. And to be fair, I mean, it was. I'm biased, but I love the first mystery. I'm going to say that, but there's a lot of layers to it, a lot of nuance to it, where we want something a lot more focused, and a lot more focused in terms of us putting the spotlight on it. So we have that, and then. I guess as we look towards middle of the year and future seasons, I think the only thing that I think is worth sharing at this point is our players might have spotted on the roadmap previously that kind of focus on new social options for crews, and with some of the complexity we had with some of our releases, we unfortunately had to shuffle things around, but that is a big thing for Sea of Thieves, like allowing people to solidify the bonds with the friends they have, but also people they meet emergently in the world, and a new social focus for the game. So that's a big release coming later in the year. That, much like Captaincy and Season 8, is another one of those. Feels like it's the start of a platform that will unlock new experiences in the future, and you'll see us build upon.
And we can't let it go throughout this entire podcast without commenting on the new Golden Sand stuff and how amazing that is.
Yeah, it is gorgeous. It is. So there'll be, I think, well, depending on when this podcast goes out, there's a you'll see year on year. I hope it's not year on year. Month on month. There'll be significant expansion. So the next big change is you'll start to see the trading company reps move into their new structures. And honestly, the Gold Hoarders one is something really special. It's like everyone internally is calling it Gringotts Bank, but it's that idea of in terms of our lore, like the Gold Hoarders have expanded. They've got all this gold because of the actions of players, and now they get to move into this really kind of glorious headquarters on Golden Sand. So that core functionality of the trading companies, the sovereigns are going to get a brand new building. The shipwright, the merchants will have a new area. When that core functionality is finished, which will be done in the coming months, that's when the new name
I was going to say
will be unveiled. And
no longer Golden Sands.
It's no longer Golden Sands.
Less sand.
No, it's not an outpost anymore. And there's no sand.
Less sand and not an outpost. So
some of our players have noticed a little pedestal There will be a statue going in there. So next month there'll be a
Is it
big
a view, mate?
There'll be it is actually. It is. It's like no, it's this. It's this with a roadmap with dynamic text, so we can update it. Things like that. Rare golden R. It will be unveiled when the name is unveiled, but like every month it's going to expand significantly. So look out for Gringotts Bank.
Yeah, and even as someone that sided with the Reapers, obviously, like even I'm moderately impressed with what we've managed to achieve there. No, honestly, it's incredible, right? To like I say, even though I've not got over it, the fact that this is what our players chose, and then to see it evolve like this, I think that for me anyway, I think that just it shows what we're willing to do in that space, and so with the future decisions and the future stuff like that, what we can go do, and how we can see it change the world. I think it's so cool. Like I just never would have thought we would have done that when we were, like you say, back in our naive little world, right? I don't think we really kind of imagined this kind of thing, right? It's so cool.
Yep. Beyond the, again, call them outposts because they were outposts, whereas now they are feeling that Golden Sands is feeling much more like a pirate port. And I would encourage players to look at the scale of Golden Sands, and when future decision points come, that's kind of the scale of what we're thinking. So we are excited that, and the team's really excited to keep doing things like this. So making our world feel like it's changing all the time. You'll see more of that. Is something?
Yeah. So,
come on, hit me.
No, this is perfect.
Great segue.
This is a perfect segue into one of the community questions that we've had from someone called Samuel C. Ford. So for the next podcast, a question for you.
Ooh. For ye? Did you say
That's
ye?
exactly how it's written.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Staying faithful to the source material. So how soon shall the King of Flame be back on the sea? Will it be a week or 2 or 3?
King
Or
of
shall
Pop.
the war cometh before he shall anew made be? So, you see why I've committed to this. Yeah. I've got some experience with Shakespeare, so... Yep. So
Yes,
was
he's
the last
back.
decision.
Flameheart is back. So we are taking the approach of, rather than doing little teases here and there, we've kind of been doing that for a while. We want to do something more meaningful. So thinking of adventures later in the year and future content, we will be doing something a bit more meaningful with Captain Flameheart to make sure, well, he's back in the form. And it's kind of interesting how we got to this point, with the community being part of it. But he's back to the form that you saw him in the art book, and you saw him in that early trailer. He's back in full skeletal form, which is really exciting. So giving him the time to shine, but it will happen.
This is just my personal curiosity now asking for this, but is this like...
Got to submit it for the next podcast.
Yeah, it's like, thanks. But we saw Golden Sands and the world changing with Golden Sands. Is that because obviously that we were fighting for the port there, or are we going to see the world changing around Flameheart?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. I mean that. I mean, I think, to be honest, we've gone even deeper on this now with a faction system where you are literally choosing between the good and the evil of the world. It's the Pirate Lord versus Flameheart. Flameheart's now back in that pure form. So we want to ensure that the stage of the world changes with his plans for the future.
Nice.
Yeah.
He's got his own roadmap.
Flameheart's got his own roadmap. It's true. He looks like someone that'd stick to it as well.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, like he doesn't worry too much about his staff's health. And,
He doesn't tolerate
work-life
delays.
balance.
No.
Not really a thing.
Well, this is the thing. If you're a servant to the flame, you're going to be crunching. You are going to be crunching.
the supplies are dwindling. I don't care. Do it.
Exactly.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Do it. Make it happen. So we've got a few more community questions, which I'm going to ask you the first one from Swabby John. And it's a one that I think we might have kind of alluded to earlier on in the podcast, which is quite good. So, do you guys have any future plan for doubloons, or should I exchange them for gold?
Is it Swabby John? Is that Sprinty John's cousin?
We do, and I can't excuse this, but I would loop it back to what I said earlier with areas of the game that feel like they could bring more value, but they don't currently. And I think doubloons and the economy of doubloons I think it feels uncomfortable with how long we've had to leave that without giving it attention. But it's in hand. There's going to be a new approach for how we think about bringing back season cosmetics, special voyage opportunities, and how we think about doubloons, and doubloons being that special currency that unlocks special cosmetics and special opportunities. So that's coming fairly soon. So yeah, I will just say, there's the other bit, what I've just mentioned, which is bringing back old season cosmetics. I think there's parts of those season cosmetics that we want to ensure reward players for being there, like the ones that are branded, the sails, the tattoos, the titles. But for some of the kind of hero items and some of the uniques, we do want to bring those back. It will always be more advantageous to earn them in the season, but they will come back to the Sea of Thieves, and you'll always have a route to go get them. So that's coming reasonably soon.
Excellent. Next question is from Davrim, and it's focusing on captaincy. So, will logbooks be able to be stored at log off and not become free info or loot? Captain's logs were precious items in history.
Yeah, that's a fair point. With you've ended a legitimate session, your ship hasn't sunk, but then your logbook is left floating in the water. That is. I don't think we have that on any roadmap, but I agree with the point, and yeah, I think we'll get to that in time.
It's the type of thing we can address kind of as we go through the game health, as the quality of life stuff. It's like those kind of that focus. Right?
It's one of those, and there's definitely some improvements to the captain's log coming, some of which you'll see in season 9, and I'll share it. Why not? So speaking of event, you've seen it's a good job. You primed me for this. For the captain's log. So one of the spirit of the captain's log is always it memorializes what you've done. So in that session, where have you been, what have you accomplished, sort of the event log of like what you'd write down in the captain's log. So that's a little expansion to the captain's log that's coming in season 9. Happy to confirm that one.
Nice. And I think, again, we've got a question from Zach Handing, and this builds again on the captaincy feature of being able to save ship loadouts. Could we have an additional feature to save clothing and potentially vanity loadouts as an easy way to swap back and forth between different cosmetic combinations?
Yes. And I've previously confirmed that was coming. And when we think about what are the top 20 things we could do for the game, that is always on the list. So we want to do it. We get the value of it. It will happen.
Yeah, it's quite a bit involved in it though, because obviously it's not just like
there's UI,
copy and paste this ship bit to this bit.
No,
right? You say it's services. It's no, sadly not.
Well, to be honest, I mean, players are fair to think that it is a bit more straightforward, because that's the way that we approach it, right? Then we dive into it and we go, actually, this is a little bit more gnarly than we first thought, which means some of the more approachable stuff ends up coming first. But it is right there on the list of things we want to go fix or expand upon.
Lovely.
Well, this is the speak now or forever hold your peace moment, because I'm about to end the podcast. So is there anything else anyone else wants to... Any little see a teases? See a tease?
You've got something else.
There's one thing I want to say is that there's something that we're doing for anniversary, which we've not done before, and is a really unique, quintessentially like dorky, wonderful Sea of Thieves idea. And I'm so excited to see it go out. Our environment art team have done something really special. And I'm going to leave it there, but it's one of the things where I look at and I'm like, oh my goodness, that is so cool. And I also don't think any of the games done it either. And it's a really special thing that's going to be super celebratory, and I'll zip there.
Threading the cool and dorky line kind of like, perfectly.
Yeah.
Love it. I love that phrase, dorky. What a great word.
Yeah.
Word of the podcast.
Do you want to share any?
Andy, yeah.
What's your favourite quality of life improvement coming to
Tell
season
us,
9?
Andy. Tell us what it is.
Got one chip.
There's so many coming for Mark.
So many of your favourites.
No.
Remember not to tell too much.
Not to tell too. I can't say exactly what it is. I don't know. There's a. Well, that somewhat restricts me. I guess a lot of the quality of life things come out from a combination of what. Hello. From the partners, the. I feel like I would get closer and closer as I get more and more nervous about saying it. A lot of it comes from like the partners, the insiders, the general kind of community, whether that's like Reddit, Twitter, wherever we can kind of collect information about like bugbears with the game and how we can improve it. But then a ton of that also comes from us kind of playing our own game in the evening, and you just have a draft email open and you just write in, I want to change that, I want to fix that, I want to improve that, this could be better, this could be slicker. And that process kind of happened with one particular thing about 9 months ago, like right in the depths of like season 8. And you got to play an experience with me when I'd kind of like prototyped a difference to like an experience to try and make it more fun and engaging for smaller crews. And that was something that was cool, but we didn't get to kind of finish it off because it was just a prototype, and hopefully we get to complete all of that and get that ready for season 9. I think that would be a big change and a big win for a lot of our different players. And then there's a bunch of other stuff around, like the types of things we spoke about with don't worry, with like taking things into the storage crates quickly or whatever. There's like a bunch of like different convenience things that I think are coming that you'll be like, how did we not have that before? Man, that's so much better than what it was. There's a bunch of those. I could think of like 3 big areas already that will just like change every single session. And I'm excited about them as well.
But I think what you said there, giving solo
It's hard to tease that, right?
Well,
do you know what I mean?
There is a
Not
focus
that.
there, which is like giving solo player just a little bit more love.
Yeah.
I think when we launched the game, it was the spirit of, it's all about the galleon, it's all about 4 players, and there is a sloop, but
it's going to be hard.
It's going to be really
hard for you.
And I think the responsibility we've got is open up solo play to more players, make sure that is a valid way to play. We see it in data. Just because players play solo doesn't mean they don't play with their friends on a galleon. It's just an option when your friends aren't online. So solo play, 5 years in, needs to be a legitimate way to play a game, but without taking the prestige off players who play with their friends and they do activities that are tailor-made for them. So I think solo play will get more and more of a focus, both from a perspective of exploits, balancing concerns, but also opening up more content for them so they can play some of the stuff we've already built, and they can feel like they're actually
can take part in it and enjoy it.
Yeah, without having to basically like speed run it or do some strange activity to try and feel like they can be competitive. So lots more focus on solo play. So that's an enjoyable way to enjoy Sea of Thieves.
For me, John, back to your question. No, so for me, like one of the things we're planning around anniversary is out of game. Something that we're doing that I've been kind of looking at and involved in and stuff. But I think it's going to be really emotional for a lot of us as a team, and I think it will be emotional for a lot of our early kind of folks and stuff. But but there's to help celebrate it and stuff. I think there's some. Yeah, I think it's cool. So I'm really looking forward to that. Well,
Super.
I think a lot of our engaged players will really find it cool too. So.
Yeah, it's something we've been excited about for years.
For
The chance to
be able to do it. So it's nice to come out on that number 5 when we're a toddler. Okay. Sticking to it. Thanks everybody for watching. It's been cool, this one. There's like lots of stuff. Well, obviously recapped a lot of stuff and excited for what's coming in the first half of this year. But we will be back to hopefully doing this. I say this every single time. We're doing it on a regular basis, and then it's like never any specific amount of time in between. But we will be back. So put on your hashtags SOT podcast into Twitter, and Christina will be like scouring through the internet.
Personally scouring.
Personally.
Yeah.
And not with a program, literally just scrolling through Twitter every single day. That's what it is. And yeah.
I'll make it my
Amazing.
sole job
Sole
for
job.
until the next podcast. That's
like
it.
you and TikTok, isn't it?
Like me and TikTok, yeah. Basically.
Next.
Yeah. I learned so many recipes and still can't cook. So remember to subscribe on any of the podcast apps or on YouTube to see when these pop up, or all the other amazing content that we put out there. And yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for your time here today. And thank you, everybody, for watching. So cheers and goodbye. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you just saw and want to stay up to date with all the latest Sea of Thieves news, then hit subscribe and click that little ship's bell for all those notifications. Cheers.